Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into Brene Brown's absolutely transformative book, Daring Greatly. We are going to break down what it really means to be vulnerable and how that, believe it or not, might just be the secret to living a much more courageous life. So let's jump right in. So the whole book kicks off with this incredibly powerful quote from a speech Teddy Roosevelt gave way back in 1910. It's all about honoring the person who isn't just watching from the sidelines, but is actually in the arena, getting messy, taking risks, and just showing up, whether they win or lose. And for Brene Brown, reading this quote was like a lightning bolt moment. She realized it perfectly captured everything her decade of research was pointing to. You know, that act of stepping into the arena, choosing courage over comfort, that is vulnerability. All right, so let's start with this central idea, the man in the arena. We really need to get a handle on what this space, this arena, truly represents in our own day-to-day lives. But showing up like that is tough, really tough. So what's stopping us? Well, that brings us to what Brown identifies as our culture of scarcity, or what you might call the never enough problem. I mean, we all look up to people with courage, don't we? So why do so many of us just stay on the sidelines? Brown argues the answer isn't just a personal failing, it's actually cultural. She calls this feeling scarcity. Just think about the first thought you have when you wake up. Oh, I didn't get enough sleep. Or that constant feeling of, I just don't have enough time. That's scarcity. It's this constant nagging background noise of what we lack. And what the scarcity mindset does is it creates this relentless voice in our heads, a whole litany of never enoughs that just whisper over and over that we don't quite measure up. This whole culture of scarcity, well, it feeds one of our most powerful and painful emotions, shame. Brene's research defines shame not just as feeling embarrassed, but as this deep, gut-wrenching fear that we are fundamentally flawed and, because of that, unworthy of connection. And that right there, that's the real reason we stay out of the arena. It's not just the simple fear of failing, it's the paralyzing fear of the shame that might come with it, the fear of being seen as unworthy. Okay, so what's the antidote? How do we fight this? Well, it all comes down to completely flipping the script on what we think vulnerability is. This is the heart of the book, and honestly, it might just change how you see, well, everything. What Brown's research found is this really fascinating paradox. When we think about vulnerability in ourselves, we almost always see it as a weakness. But when we see other people being vulnerable, we see it as pure courage. And this quote from her just hits the nail on the head. We are drawn to raw honesty and openness in other people, but we are absolutely terrified to let them see it in us. So let's be super clear here. Brown's definition of vulnerability is the feeling we get in any moment of uncertainty, risk, or emotional exposure. It's not some weakness we have to avoid. It's actually the birthplace of all the good stuff in life: joy, creativity, belonging, and love. All right, so if vulnerability is so essential, why does it feel so scary? Well, that brings us to the next big idea, the armor we all wear to protect ourselves from it. Brown uses this fantastic metaphor of armor. We build these shields, these protective mechanisms, because we think they'll keep us safe from judgment and pain. But in reality, they're just weighing us down and preventing us from truly connecting with others. One of the most common and definitely one of the heaviest pieces of armor we carry around is perfectionism. And let's be clear, this is not about healthy striving or trying to be our best. It's a defense mechanism. This quote is just so powerful. Perfectionism isn't about self-improvement. It's about trying to control what other people think. It's a hustle based on the flawed belief that if I look perfect and do everything perfectly, I can avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. It's that heavy shield that often stops us from even thinking about entering the arena. Another way we armor up is through numbing. Whenever we feel that anxiety or disconnection or shame creeping in, our first instinct is often to just take the edge off, to deaden the feelings so we don't have to really sit with it. And listen, we numb out in so many ways, and it's not always what you think. It's not just about the obvious stuff. It can be weaponizing our to-do lists, the endless doom scrolling on our phones, or constant worrying. Really, it's anything we do to avoid feeling the discomfort of our own emotions. So we've talked about the problem. How do we actually put down all this armor and learn to dare greatly? Well, the answer lies in cultivating what Brene Brown calls wholehearted living. Wholehearted living is a practice, not a destination. It's about waking up every morning and truly believing, no matter what gets done today and how much is left undone, I am enough. It's about knowing deep down that you are worthy of love and belonging right now, exactly as you are. And this isn't just some vague, feel-good idea. There are actual steps you can take. It starts with understanding what triggers your shame. Then it's about practicing empathy by sharing your story with people you trust. From there, you can start to embrace vulnerability and let that armor go. And finally, learn to live from a place of genuine worthiness. And this is so important to remember. We have to stop giving so much power to the critics in the cheap seats. The opinions that truly matter come from the people who are down in the arena with you, getting dusty and sweaty too. Their feedback matters. The rest is just noise. And that brings us to the final question, the one the book leaves us to think about for ourselves. Take a second and really think about it. Is there a tough conversation you've been putting off? A creative idea you're too scared to start? What arena is calling out to you? And how are you going to choose to dare greatly?